recording so that we can start our lecture. So shall we begin?
Yes, madam, they'll find us ahead.
Okay. Okay, so let me just share my screen. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, madam, we can see.
Okay. So first of all, just to greet you all, I'm just going to, let me first stop sharing a bit. For the sake of introductions, I'm just going to put on my video for a little bit so you can see me. So can you all see me?
Okay. Refuse to turn on mine.
Can you all see me?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, just for the sake of that, because I don't know if we shall see each other. So just so that you may know, you may see another face that is behind the voice that you'll be hearing for some time. So this is what I look like. That's one. So next, I am going to introduce myself. Let me just pull up the screen one more time. So welcome to this module, Research Methods in IT. I'm sure you've heard about research, you've heard something about it, not so? This is not the first time you're hearing about this course unit. You've had others, I'm sure you've had others talk about it. Other people from other course units. Yes, no? Hello?
Yes, madam.
You've heard about it?
Yeah, kinda.
Kind of. Tell me, what do you think? What do you think about it when you hear about it? What comes to mind? Let's talk. Let's discuss. I don't want this to be one person talking. Let's have a discussion. What have you heard about? What comes to mind when you hear about research methods?
Okay, madam, my own thinking is that it's a method used to carry out some activities to get more information regarding something.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair one. That's a fair description. Others? Albert?
Yes, madam.
What are your thoughts?
When I hear research methods, I think these are different techniques of collecting information about something.
Okay. That's good. That's also good. Joseph, what are your thoughts?
Madam, my opinion is it's like a process for someone to analyze some information, like maybe like a particular topic, then you analyze it to select the techniques to use.
Okay. You have a particular topic, you analyze it. Not so?
Yes.
Okay. Joseph, had we had anything from you? We had something from Albert. Joseph? Yes, Joseph. Joseph, you raised your hand.
It's a method used in data collection.
It's a method using data collection.
Yes.
Okay, that's what about it? What about Jairus? Jairus, what do you think? Jairus? Jairus, any thoughts?
Yes, madam.
Any thoughts on what you think
I
research
think research
methods?
is the collection of data.
Collection of data. Okay.
Sorry?
You said collection of data, eh? Okay.
Yes.
And Raymond. Raymond, what are your thoughts? Raymond has fallen off. Twinkle, I think you had already spoken, eh? Is Twinkle your real name?
Lillian.
It's Lillian, eh? Okay. So I was thinking Twinkle may not be right. Okay. Okay, thank you. I think you have some fair idea about what research methods is. So,
Excuse me, madam.
yes, please.
Kasozpo wants to say something.
Yes,
Kasozi.
madam, my system is down,
Yeah.
but I'll be communicating with this she says phone. I think
Okay.
research methods is like methodology we apply in collecting information regarding to a particular study.
Okay.
In
So this
IT
is who?
sector. This is
This
Paul
is who?
Kasozi.
Paul
Paul
Kasozi.
Kasozi.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying
Yeah,
it
I
is
think we are talking about issues like writing out to in where we can fill respondents can fill in information we are requesting from them about certain issues or an idea we are coming up with in the IT. Yeah.
So I think all of you have some kind of idea what research is, if not precisely what it is, but things that it involves, certain processes that it actually involves. So thank you for that. Thank you for those responses. I'd really like that this module is about we interact actively, because it can be, you can get lost in what research is, and it becomes very daunting at the end of the day. But once you get the logic of something, I believe once you get the logic of anything, you begin to approach it without fear. But when we don't understand it, we tend to fear. So you've already seen what I look like. So this is briefly who I am, or partially who I am. Of course, as a human being, I am broader than just my academics, but for purposes of academics, this is who I am. My name is Sheba Rusokenya Kaisiki. I hail from Fort Portal, and that's where I am physically. So I think I had sent Sisa a message saying that, hoping that it is okay with everyone that these classes will be online, because I have a bit of a big responsibility on this side in Fort Portal. So that our classes will be purely online. I will do my level best to ensure that we participate and everyone is on board. I'll try my level best, but if there is any situation, if there's any hindrance, please don't hesitate to let me know. If there's anything you haven't understood, please stop me and ask. We are not born researchers. Yeah, even myself, I remember myself when I was doing my bachelor's at UMU, many years back, and submitting research for the first time. It was scary, like anything else, but you know, your objective in life is to pick up whatever we are taught by life. So please don't hesitate to stop me. So I have a first degree in ethics and development studies from Uganda Martyrs University. Some many years back. I'm actually one of the pioneer students of UMU. Then my second degree is in computing, so that's how I come in to teach in the Faculty of Science, specifically in the Department of Computer Science and Information Technology. Then I have a PhD from TU Delft in the field of ICT. So because of that, my research background, especially in my PhD, that's where I come in now to teach research methods. I'm not an expert. I'm also learning along the way. So you've all mentioned something that you know about research. And essentially, when we teach this course unit, there are certain things we expect somebody to pick out, certain minimum expectations. But of course, you can pick out even more than what we point out. Research it's like any course unit. I'm sure you've been through different modules, different course units since you started. All of you are in year 2, not so? Yeah, all of you are in year 2, and so far you've had different course units in programming, I'm sure in networking, in computer maintenance, some of the new, I mean, they're new, I'm sure there are new course units that I may not even be aware of. But you've encountered different course units. Most of them have really focused on giving you skills that will market you in the job market. That you can go to a potential employer and say, I'm able to build systems, I'm able to maintain systems, I'm able to be an administrator to a system. That means manage them and maintain them and so on and so forth. Whether they are software systems or hardware, whatever it is, these are the skills that you're picking up. Now, research methods, unlike the others, is of a different breed, should we say. Something else quite different. Research methods is what makes you an academic. Now, you may be wondering, what does that mean? Everything else you've been doing is making you an IT profession. Yeah, that you can go out there and support IT in any organization, that you can build systems and so on and so forth. Those make you IT professions, but they don't make you academics. So what is an academic, if I may ask? I'm sure you may have with you your online, so you have access to internet. Can you just Google and find out what is an academic or who is an academic? What is an academic? Any thoughts?
It's
Yes, sister.
the special of study or training in a special field.
It's training in a special field. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? I see Moses has joined us. Moses, do you have any thoughts on what an academic is or who an academic is? Any thoughts? Okay, one of the things that I've seen here, it says relating to education and scholarship. Okay, relating to education and scholarship. And scholarship essentially is referring to writing, publishing, bringing forward new knowledge. So quite different from being an IT profession. It kind of, what this one does, it elevates you to something else, that you're not just somebody with skills that can do something, but you are now a thinker. Okay, that you are now a thinker. So that's what research methods is meant to do. So how then does this translate in what we expect from you? One, that you should be able to identify a significant research problem. Significant research problem. So we have problems in life. If we are to talk about the word problems, we have problems. For example, if you ask me, if I may tell you I have a problem, maybe paying my bills, that's a problem. Another person will say, I have a health problem. Yeah, somebody maybe suffers from high blood pressure, or I have malaria. That's a health problem. Another person may say, I have a problem with my siblings. That's a family problem. So there are all kinds of problems, but there's a research problem. And this is something that we're going to put specific focus on, because a research problem is not like the same as an everyday problem. So let me give you another example. Another person may have a business problem where somebody says, I have a problem, people are stealing my money. That's a problem to do with governance and accountability systems. That's a business problem. Another person might say, I have a problem collecting information for something. That is a process problem, a business process problem. So again, there are business problems, there are health problems, there are social problems, but then there are also research problems. So that one is quite significant. And the reason I've circled it is that we have to keep this in mind. Okay, keep it in mind. And I would advise, even before we get to these specific things, I would advise that you start to read about them in your own time. What is a research problem? And begin to think about it in terms of your own research. Because in your third year, you'll be doing a dissertation. And the dissertation is, of course, a very huge part and a significant part of your degree. And hopefully, as you'll move on from bachelor's, you'll move on to master's and PhD and so on and so forth. So this is the beginning. So this is a significant thing, being able to identify a significant research problem. Second is to identify the aims of a research project. These aims are meant to solve the research problem that you would have identified. Yeah, the aims, the objectives. What is my objective? I've now identified a research problem. So then what is my objective in order to resolve that research problem? Okay, again, these are significant terms. Go ahead and research them in your own time so that when we come back next week, we are not green. Okay. Once we have identified our research problem and our objectives or aims, we then select appropriate research methods. One of the things we shall note when we identify what research methods is when we begin to define it, we'll find that it is a scientific process. So any scientific process has methods. Yeah, it has methods. There are methods people use to solve. Just like if you have a mathematical problem, you have mathematical formulas to resolve them. So when you're demonstrating your answer, you demonstrate that I use this formula and this is how I use the formula. I did this, this, and this, and it gave me this answer. And because this is a scientifically approved formula, my answer must then be correct. So therefore, also for you to be able to come up with answers, you should have shown that you have selected appropriate research methods. Again, go ahead and try and find out what are research methods. Okay. Now, in selecting research methods, you also have what we call data collection tools. So there's a method and then there's a data collection tool. Two different things. Two completely different things, but they go hand in hand. So again, also go ahead and just research on that. So once data is collected, you carry out data analysis. So we have data analysis techniques. Now, when we are doing a data analysis, we're trying to make meaning of the data we have collected using our data collection tools and our research methods. So we want to make sense so that we can give an appropriate answer which answers our aims or objectives. Okay, and then finally, we should be able to produce a research proposal, which then translates into a dissertation. So these are just some of the basic outcomes we expect out of a student. Now, do we have any questions so far? Do we have any questions so far?
Excuse me, madam.
Yes, please.
Are all these things we are talking about going to be computerized?
What do you mean?
Are we going to use how can I call it, systems that are computer based, or we're going to use, for example, we're going to use something like, okay, is it going to be more of practical or more of theory? Because computer stuff is normally, we shall involve ourselves in coding, or now if it's theory, we shall maybe involve ourselves in maybe making reports, maybe something like that. I don't know how I can exactly bring it out, but
okay.
that I don't know if we pick up.
Essentially, you want to find out the nature of this course unit. Is it programming? Is it what is it exactly? And one is, like I'd said earlier, the course units you've been doing are making you programmers, but this is making you an academic, a thinker. Okay, a thinker. So when we are thinkers, it means you're more or less theoretical. You're bringing forward new knowledge. Yeah? You're bringing forward new knowledge. So what we're going to be using more out of this is our thinking. It's not a practical course. It's not a practical course. It is a course that gives you skills in research. So what you're going to do extensively is reading. What you're going to do extensively is looking for published articles. That means peer-reviewed, published articles. What you're going to be doing is thinking and raking your brain and thinking some more, and then writing. Once you've made logic, you write. So nothing like programming involved in any of this. Have I answered your question? Sorry, let me first remove this. Just give me a minute. Have I answered your question?
Yes, you had, madam.
Okay. So first give me a minute. I first remove something here. Okay. Okay. Now, definition of a research, of what research is. Now, so far I asked you at the beginning and you gave me some answers which at least shows you have an idea what research is, and or you have an idea what it involves, not necessarily what research is, but what it involves. Many say data collection, asking people respondents, and things like that. Now, this is what research is in its proper sense. Yeah, you can all see this screen. So first we see that it is a process. A process has a beginning and an end. And in between the beginning and an end, you have several activities that you carry out. Okay. The aims, or rather the outcomes we outlined, kind of give a hint of what those activities involve. Many of them involve quite a bit of reading. So you need to familiarize yourself with looking for articles on places like Google Scholar, using the library e-resources to look for articles related to your subject of interest. Then thinking about something, critically thinking about it, and bringing meaning out of it, and then communicating it. So it's quite a number of processes. It's new. It has very little to do with what you've been doing, programming and so on and so forth. Although at the end you will produce a dissertation which is attached to a system, but the thinking part of it is the process, is what me as a lecturer I'm focusing on. I'm not going to teach you how to develop systems. You've done that already, not so. Yeah. Have you all not done systems now?
Still learning.
You're still learning, but this course unit is not going to teach you how to develop systems. You're already doing that in other course units. What this course unit is going to do is teach you how to carry out research, scientific research. Sometimes we think, oh, let me go and look for answers to a certain coursework that they have given me. And we think that when we go search for those, we're actually doing research. No, research, that's not what it is. It's bringing forward new knowledge which hasn't been published. Okay, so number one, it's a process. So get ready for that process. Find out what that process is. Look at all the different things I've just been talking about: research problem, aims or objectives, research methods, data collection techniques, data analysis. Look for those keywords. Just go and research. But by the time we come next week, you know something. I'm not just talking and giving you information that is in the sky. So one, it's a process. Two, it is a systematic inquiry. Systematic, meaning we know what a system is. Not so. Since we're IT students, we know what a system is. We know there are components, and each component has a specific function it carries out and produces something which then it passes to the next component. And at the end, it gives a result, or it performs a function which the user wants to or is seeking for. So we know what a system is. So this one is a systematic inquiry. It's a process which involves a systematic inquiry, meaning we have several stages when we start the inquiry. Several stages. Again, go back to the outcomes I just talked about, and that should give you a hint of what this systematic inquiry is, or investigation. It's a systematic inquiry or investigation into a specific problem, a specific problem. You remember we talked about research problem? This is what it is, an investigation into a specific problem or issue that leads to new or improved knowledge. New or improved knowledge. Let me first stop there and ask you what so far you think about the words I have just been saying.
Madam,
Yes, please.
pardon, I didn't get you.
You didn't get what exactly? The definition?
Not really. The question you posed.
I was asking, so far, what we have said about what research is. What are your thoughts? Yes, Cisse, you have something to say?
This is Paul Kasozi.
Yes, Paul.
Yes, madam.
Yes, please. What do you think so far about what we have said, what research is, the proper definition of research?
I was saying that research is about something which is already in existence or aimed at improving what is already in existence, but it is done systematically.
It's done systematically. What do we mean by it being done systematically? What does that?
It means it involves processes whereby you have to find the solution to it and the methods you're supposed to use to collect the necessary data.
The methods you're supposed to use to collect the necessary data. Is it collecting the data or is it resolving the problem? There are two different things. There's collecting data and then there's resolving a problem. I'll give you an example. You go to the doctor, okay? You're not feeling well.
Madam.
Yes, please. Yes, Jairus.
You asking our
No,
right?
I was saying there is collecting. We have to differentiate between two things. Collecting data and a method.
Yes.
Okay. So I was trying to go further and explain the difference between the two, data collection and research method. So let us take the example of healthcare, a healthcare situation. You go to the hospital, you go and see a doctor, you're not feeling well. Now the doctor has two things that they must do. They must identify your health problem, what it is that is causing you ailment. Okay, so before them, they have two things. They have methods of inquiry, and then two, they have the data collection tools. So the methods of inquiry may involve talking to you and asking you, what is it that hurts you? What is it that is hurting? That's a method of inquiry, talking to you. Then they go ahead now to identify what exactly it is that is causing whatever ailment. So how do they get to identify that? They then begin taking you to the lab. They tell you, go and give us a blood sample, give us a urine sample, maybe do an X-ray, maybe do a scan. Those are data collection tools, but they are not the methods. The methods he could have used talking to you. He could have used a system which looks at symptoms and then says this is the approach. He could use an article. That is the method. So the method is basically the approach he wants to use, either talking to you personally or going to a pool of data. But the data collection tool is now sending you to the lab for lab tests. So the two things I want you to clearly to differentiate the research method and data collection. The research method is the approach. The data collection of data is simply using tools to collect data to help pinpoint exactly where the solution may be, or where the problem and then therefore the solution may be. Okay? So far, am I making sense, or have I confused you even more?
You're making sense, madam.
Okay, I hope so. So, one is to think about what the systematic inquiry means. So it starts with identification of a problem, a research problem. Two, it moves to the objectives, meaning you're answering the question, how am I going to resolve this research problem? What things must I fulfill in order to come to the answer that solves this problem? Then three, what approach, what research method will I use? So the reason why I'm emphasizing that there's a difference between research method and data collection. Many times you find someone saying, I use the questionnaire, that's my research method. No, a questionnaire is a tool. It's a tool, like you have a hole, like you have a pen, it's a tool, it's not a method. It's a data collection method or tool. It's a data collection technique, but it's not a research method. Research method is more of an approach. Okay? So we shall see those in detail. So what I'm pointing out is the systematic inquiry or investigation. So we start with identification of the research problem, identification of the objectives, the different objectives that if I answer objective 1, objective 2, I will resolve the main problem. Then we come to selection of appropriate research method, then selection of appropriate data collection tools. Then after I've collected those, I carry out data analysis and I report that data. I give a final answer, whether I say whether I've resolved the problem or I haven't. So now that report I finally give out is where I bring the new or improved knowledge. Now, here is something that is key to remember in what we report. Many times we assume that our answer must always be positive. What do I mean? Let us say I fall sick, I go to the doctor identifies the sickness, gives me medication, I take the medication, I get better. Okay? Would we identify that as research? Well done. How many of us think that is research well done?
Madam, I lost you. Kindly, could you repeat that?
Okay. I'm giving a scenario where I fall sick. Me as Sheba, I fall sick. I go to the doctor diagnoses me, prescribes medicine. I take it, I get better. Would you identify that as research well done?
Yes, because he has given a solution to the problem.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam, if I got you right, you said you fall sick. Doctor identifies medicine.
He diagnoses, prescribes, and then I get better. Is that research well done?
Yeah, I think that is well done, because after him diagnosing and finding out what actually is you are suffering from, he has carried out some information and prescribed the necessary solutions to the problem that you are actually suffering from.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me give you a news flash. That's not a research problem, and that's therefore it's not research. That was a health problem, not a research problem. Okay. That one, it brought a new and improved Sheba, because now Sheba is not sick anymore, but it is not new or improved knowledge. Okay. These are the key points I want you to note: new or improved knowledge. So that is not research. Let me give you an example of what good research would be. We've just been through, we came through a pandemic. Not so. All of us in this classroom, virtual classroom, experienced the COVID pandemic. Not so?
So,
yeah. So imagine the situation with the scientific researchers, those who are into research of infectious diseases and viruses, specifically viruses. For example, in Uganda, we have I think is it the infectious diseases unit or something? It's at, I know it's at Makere and other units. I have a former colleague who is there as the head ICT. Imagine those scientists who are carrying out that research. When the first time COVID was identified,
like the COVID-X professor.
Not necessarily. Okay, the Covidex there's a Covidex professor that he was coming to medicine, but let's think now of those who were identifying the virus for the first time. To know that there's a new virus called COVID, and this is it, this is its genetic makeup. This is what it looks like. Yeah. Now, those scientists who first identified it, those were bringing about new knowledge. Those who were identifying the new variants that were coming in, for example, Delta, all these other, whatever it was, all these were bringing about new knowledge. Those who were now beginning to identify how it fights the body, that's new knowledge they were bringing. Then those who began to identify the medicines that can attack it, that's new knowledge. And to what effect, that is new knowledge. You know, the things that can fight the symptoms, that was new knowledge. And even now, get this, even those scientists who are identifying things that don't work. Do you hear that? Those scientists who are identifying let's say the medicines that don't work, those were bringing about new and improved knowledge. Do you get it? Have you understood what I'm trying to say?
Yes, madam.
Yes, so even the person who brings a negative result, yeah, the person who brings out a negative result is bringing forward new and improved knowledge so that somebody knows, another scientist knows, don't bother going in this direction. Anyone who's researching on that topic knows, don't bother. Sorry, Jairus, you're breaking. Sorry, Jairus, you are breaking.
Madam, it's his internet has actually gone off.
Okay.
But he's logging in after you.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. So why carry out research? Most important for academic purposes. This is when a person who is coming to pick up skills at a university becomes an academic. This is the big difference between you and, let me give you an example of a very big person in the IT world. That is Bill Gates. Now, I'm sure most of you right now are saying, why would I want to be different from Bill Gates? He's one of the richest people in the world. Yes, they are rich people, and then there are those who are academics. You can be both. Either way, you can still be both. An academic is a thinker, somebody who brings about new or improved knowledge. And everyone depends on those people. Every single person depends on those people to acquire new knowledge. Now, you may be saying, okay, this is for you because you'll be reading many articles. No, we are talking about a certain academic field acquires new knowledge. You acquire it and you communicate it to others, that new knowledge. Okay? To find answers to questions. So the question is, who is asking these questions? Is it you or is it others? That is a key point we must understand. Okay? Let me give an example. Me as Sheba, I may ask a question. What makes up Covidex? What makes up Covidex? That's a question. Yeah? Now, if I go and find out, have I answered a question that is relevant in research? Have I answered that question that is relevant in research? I ask you all. Have I answered a question relevant in research? If me as Sheba, Hello?
Madam, we have a network problem.
Oh, you can't hear me clearly?
No, like our Wi-Fi is poor.
Hey, sorry. Are you guys at Lubaga?
Yes.
The network is poor.
Very.
Oh, sorry. I'll not tell you harass ICT because I was once in that department. I know how bad it is. I would say harass management, don't harass ICT. So I was saying, if I asked a question, what makes up COVIDX? You all know what COVIDX is, eh?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, if I ask that question, what makes up COVIDX? And then I go and find out, have I answered a valid research question? Me as Sheba Nyakaisiki.
I think no.
Why is it no? Good answer, but why no? Why have I not answered a valid research question? Because sorry, what?
Aimed at improve, because research is aimed at improving the existing truth about something.
Yeah.
So you are disproving, or you are expressing your dissatisfaction about the existing facts.
Yeah. So in
Right?
other words, what makes up COVIDX, people already know. It's just Sheba who doesn't know. Okay? So it's nothing new I'm bringing to the table. In other words, by me going to find out, there's nothing new I'm bringing to the table. People already, I'm sure that professor, I forget his name, has already published what is in COVIDX. So it's only me who didn't know what was in there. So in other words, we must be asking a question that is lingering in the hearts and minds of certain researchers. Yeah. So take an example, the researchers who are researching on COVID, they were answering questions that all researchers in the infectious diseases were asking. What is this virus? What is this genetic makeup? How does it fight the body? How does it begin to attack the body? How is it transmitted? How do we fight it? Those were questions they were answering. Now, at this point, they already have answers to those questions, but I'm sure they have other more questions. For example, right now, the question they may be asking is, what kind of vaccine, what is the most effective way to vaccinate people? Because right now the vaccines they've given are temporary, they wear off after some time. But you have other vaccines which we've seen over time, vaccines which are quite effective, and they last over time. For example, the vaccines we take when we are children against measles and all these other diseases, and those are quite effective. So I'm sure now researchers are thinking of ways to make vaccines which are more long lasting against COVID. So those are the research questions that they may be thinking about. So why again conduct research to solve practical world problems? Now let me also say we think about practical problems, but there are some problems which are not practical. So I'll give you an example. I'm sure right now all of you on social media, you've been seeing things on subjects of gender. Not so?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a lot of those gender questions. Gender neutral, is gender transitionary? Those questions are on everyone's lips. So of course, There are those who can do the practical research and point out that our gender is predetermined right from the womb, and that research is there and it's well published. Then there are those who can go more philosophical in response. Yeah, and those who can go a little bit more philosophical in response, where they bring out people's thoughts and metaphysical, they call them metaphysical arguments and so on and so forth. It's answering a practical problem where people will ask, is it right for someone to change their gender? And where they bring in theology and philosophy and so on and so forth. So solving these world problems is not always having a tangible solution, but some are intangible, so to speak. But of course, our research is more practical in the IT world. It's a little bit more practical. It enhances critical skills in communication, independent thinking, creativity, and problem solving. This is extremely important. You answer the what if questions. What happens if I do this? What happens if I design a system using this approach as opposed to the other one? Okay? Things like that. This is why we conduct research. We also conduct research to improve the livelihoods of people, to improve the well-being of people. If I install this system, does it improve efficiency? If I create a system, will it be more adaptable? Yeah. In more intense research, we look at proving or disproving hypotheses. We won't go as far as that. You may see that in your master's courses. We may not go as far as that for our research when we talk about proving or disproving hypotheses. Any questions so far on why we carry out research?
Madam, what have you asked?
I said, any questions so far as why we conduct research?
No.
Okay. Let's look at some characteristics of research, of good research. There is poor research and there's good research. First things first, we must follow a systematic process. There, like I said, there are predetermined rules and regulations. And those, if you look at the aims and outcomes of our research, that's what we are focusing on, so that you really understand that systematic process that one goes through. It builds on other research, something that has been done before. There must be, you're building onto, you're offering something new to previous research. So research is always based on other research. So take an example. If, let's say, Sheba does a research to find out implementation of Moodle at Uganda Matters University. How has it improved teaching and learning? And Sheba publishes her data. Then tomorrow, CISE decides to do a research to add on and says, specifically focuses on one particular future, discussion forums, how they, in the future of discussion forums has actually improved teaching and learning. What is its contribution to the teaching and learning process at UMU? So that is an addition. Okay, so research always builds on previous research. That is why it is important we start by reading what has been published so far. about our particular area of interest. It addresses directly or indirectly some real world problem. Directly or indirectly, some real world problem. So I'm giving it, there's already an article on Moodle I want you to read about and read it critically. It has a lot of big words, but I also want to introduce you to big words and get used to academic writing. But just take time and read through. It also takes ethical and moral issues into consideration. So take an example, you must ask your respondents permission to, sorry, my mouse has fallen down. You must consider, as I'm doing this research, am I infringing on anyone's rights? Have I asked people permission to collect data from them? If I'm using a particular case study, have I asked permission? Am I invading anyone's privacy? Will I be reporting anything that will compromise one person? So there are ethical and moral considerations. All these make up good research. The research clearly states variables or constructs that are going to be examined. Take an example here. We have an example where examining students' performance. So the students is a variable and their performance is another variable. We clearly state what it is we are examining. Okay? Now, of course, if we're talking about students' performance, that is, of course, non-IT related. Is there someone asking a question? That would be non-IT related. But let us say a student embarks on building a system to support e-learning. Yeah, one of you says, I'm going to build a system or add a functionality to Moodle to support learning, teaching and learning. So now the student at the end of it will say, I want to examine what I'm building it fine, but I want to examine if it does actually improve teaching and learning. So those would be two variables, teaching and learning. Yeah. And therefore that student is going to interview lecturers on teaching. Did this particular new feature I've added to Moodle, did it improve your teaching process? Then I go to the students, did it improve your learning process? So those two variables, teaching and learning, okay? Those are the two variables I would be examining in my research. So far, have I made sense there?
No.
Hello?
Following.
Okay. Okay, then the other thing is research must not be biased, must not have a biased position. This is extremely important for researchers to have a non-biased position. What do I mean? If let us say, let us say as Sheba, okay, let me just give you an example now. I was told we were talking about, you talked about how your internet speeds are low at Lubaga. And I told you that at one time I worked with the ICT department. So number one, members of the ICT department, most of them are my dear friends because they were my colleagues. Okay. Two, yeah, I'm also I have intimate knowledge of the business processes within the ICT department. So already that gives me a biased position. So by the time you tell me your speeds are low, I already have a biased position. So immediately remember I told you, please don't go and harass the ICT people. Why? Because number one, they are my dear friends. Okay, so already I have a biased position, not so? Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so already that tells you that I have a biased position. So objectively, I'm not being objective when I say, please don't go and harass them, because I have an emotional attachment to the members of the ICT department, because they are my friends, they were my colleagues, we interacted extensively for a long time. So in reality, I'm biased. So let us say if I was to do research on how effective the ICT department at UMU would be.
Madam.
Not be the best.
Madam.
Yes, please. Yes, Jairus.
I understand you're having an emotional feeling for the people you work for.
Yes.
So the bias you're having, is it or who exactly?
The bias is I can't objectively, let us, like I was saying, if I was to do research on the ICT department and to find out how effective the department is, I would not be the best person to do research on that, because I already have an emotional attachment to the members of the ICT department. Automatically, I'd be thinking, oh, I remember last time so-and-so helped me with this. Oh, last time when I was working with this person, we did this and this together. We worked on this report. You know, I already have a biased position, so I can't objectively evaluate them.
I get it. I understand.
So research must be unbiased. You must be objectively going to seek answers to questions to questions you have no answers to. Okay, so you shouldn't have a predefined answer. So emotional attachments should be something you shouldn't have at all. I'll give you an example, practical example in research. So one time I was involved in a PhD. There were PhD students who were presenting their work. Now, one of the students, one of the PhD candidates, was presenting her proposal. Her research was specifically about the land disputes between Buganda and Bunyoro. Okay, now how many of you know that history between, I'm not very clear about it, but I think I just have an idea. How many of you know that history between Buganda and Bunyoro about the land disputes? How many of you know about that history? Yeah, I'm also not very well versed about it, but I think it comes from colonial times. But I think some land was taken from Bunyoro and given to Buganda, and I think there are some disputes over that. I'm not very clear about it. Now, here was the issue. As the candidate was presenting her work, you could see clearly it emotionally affected her. Clearly, you could tell her emotions were affected. You could see that she was getting emotional and she was getting angry as she was presenting. And immediately, the professors who are guiding immediately told her that we think you should drop this topic because you are emotionally involved. Okay? Because it would have been better if, let us say, someone from Kenya was the one doing research on that. Do you get it? Because this Kenyan is not in any way emotionally attached to that situation. The second I remember was also, it was a man. This man was actually African, but he grew up in the US, a black man in the US. And he wanted to do research to prove that civilization began in Africa. And his motivation for doing that research was because he felt Blacks were being undermined, that they were less than, especially in the US. So again, also when he finished, the first thing they told him that, look, yes, you may have an African name, but you are essentially a Black American who has been through the racial issues in the US. What what gives validity to your research? What will entrust someone to believe that really your research was well done because you're so desperate to prove how important Black people are in terms of origins of civilization? So in other words, that they were pointing out that your biased position is going to affect the results of your research. Okay, the biased position. So being objective in research is extremely important. Then it should give you multiple possible answers. Actually, at the end of your research, we normally point out at the conclusions, we say, this research probably means, these findings probably mean this, but it could also probably mean this. You give all possible positions based on your results. That is one of the things that gives validity to research. Any questions so far?
Can you ask the question?
Pardon, I said any questions so far? Any question? Are we okay?
We are okay, madam.
Okay, let's move to the next. So, what research is not? What research is not? One, plagiarism. Have you heard of this term, plagiarism?
Yes, madam.
What is it?
Yes. Copy and paste.
Copy and paste. Now, this one might say, now you've already said we are supposed to read other people's research. Our research is based on others. One, it is to copy and paste and not acknowledge that so and so said this, and based on that, this research is adding on this. Just copying and not acknowledging other people's work. Okay. Two, falsifying now with plagiarism, this is something that is really important. When we're writing our dissertations, our proposals, we want to finish. And dissertations and proposals and research can be very daunting because it involves you to think, it involves you to formulate your thoughts, formulate something that is of you. And we get tired, we get bored. So plagiarism seems the quick way out. Let me just copy and paste as long as I have enough pages and I have some kind of, let me just do that. Please avoid that. Do the work. Think. We were created to think. That's what God created us to do, to be thinkers. We are co-creators with God. That is why people give birth. We're able to create human beings. So if we can create human beings, we can also create new knowledge. Not so. So plagiarism, this is where this comes from. Falsifying data. Yeah. This is where you sit down and say, I don't want to go and interview people. I don't want to give people questionnaires. I don't have time. I don't have money. So let me sit down and fill out the questionnaire myself. Okay. Misrepresenting information or misleading participants. Being that is where the ethical parts come in. Being very clear with your participants what you're trying to do with your research. Providing inadequate references to your work. This means you really must build your references. Read and read and read and read and read as extensively as possible. Okay? here are just some of the problems you may encounter as you're doing your research. And these challenges you can overcome them. One, finding appropriate literature to support your work. Now, here, one, I will introduce you to Google Scholar. Let Google Scholar be your friend. Do you know how to access Google Scholar?
Yes.
Okay, first give me a minute, give me a second here. Hold on.
Madam,
Hello, sorry, I was just responding to someone. So quickly, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, madam, we can hear you.
Okay. So sorry, I had to mute a little bit. I was just talking to someone quickly. So one is lack of sufficient or appropriate literature. So one, I was asking, do you know what Google Scholar is?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So you know how to use it. That should be your best friend in terms of looking for published articles on any area of research. Then two, use the library resources. Use the library, the UMU library. Those guys are really good at what they're doing. Then let's come to inadequate data. This is when you go to the field and maybe you don't collect enough information. Now, it's really important, very, very important that you work with your supervisor from beginning to end. As you formulate your data collection tools, as you pick your research method, as you design your data collection tools, work with your supervisor to ensure that you collect enough data. Inadequate funding, of course, start planning for this right away. If you know you have to move to somewhere, to print, do all those things, make sure you let your sponsors know, your guardians. And the lack of trust by data providers. So this is where it is important you communicate clearly to those people you're getting information from. What information you want to collect, why you want to collect it, the issue of confidentiality, that we shall not use your names, things like that, to know that it is so and so who said this. Then research demands a lot of time and effort. Yeah, a lot of time and effort. Please remember this. Okay. So, this is a class exercise, and we're going to have this as a discussion in our next lecture. But I want you to think about it. What challenges do you expect to encounter? How do you plan to overcome these challenges as far as research is concerned? So we're going to have this discussion on Padlet in our next lecture, but I just want to point out something here in Moodle. Something else I want you to look at. One, I want to note that there is a study guide. Can you all see my screen, what I'm pointing at the study guide in Moodle? Do you see that? Hello?
Madam, we can only see your presentation. We can't see what is telling us.
Okay, sorry. Stop sharing. Okay, can you now see?
Yes, we can see that.
Yeah, so first access the study guide, which is also the course outline. It points out the topics we're going to cover, the days we're going to study, and you will notice on the study guide, I indicate, let me just open. Let me just open it briefly and point out something to you. I point out the days of study and what were the topics we're going to cover. You notice for week 1, I have 13th. Okay, this is the old one. I think this was, 14th, yes. 14th is today for us, Lubaga. So 13th is for, the first date is for Masaka. The second date is for Lubaga. The third date is for main campus. Okay, so I hope you don't get confused by that. So there are 3 days for each week. Those are for the different campuses. And it also indicates when you receive your first assignment, when you will present it. The second assignment, when you will present it. Then your third assignment, which is a quiz. So take time and read through that guide, the study guide or course outline. Then I also put up reading materials under Introduction to Research Methods. So in there, I have 3 reading materials. These two, the first 2, Block 2 Research Methods, the basics, and then Rajiv Kumar Research Methodology. These are e-books, electronic books on research. Please read them. 2, there's an article here called Multitasking with Information Technologies. Why not just relax? Please read that article. It's an article in the field of computer science and IT, a research article, published research article. Now, why am I giving it to you is 1, to see what research is, the new knowledge it brings. 2, to introduce you to some of the basics. We're going to try and point out, at the end of it, we're going to try and point out what are some of the research elements that we are going to be learning about. What are they? How do we identify them in a paper? Then, in addition to that, there is a discussion forum. Now, your participation in this discussion forum also adds to your marks. So please participate, okay? So it is about that research article. And I'm just asking a very, very simple question in it. Yeah? What are the authors of this article trying to communicate? So I just want your thoughts after you've read it as an individual. Okay?
Okay, madam.
Okay. I think also in this particular folder, there is also the lecture slides we've had today. Okay, so they are there. You can access those as well. So do we have any question?
No.
Madam, thank you so very much for today's lecture. Only my question is, on the Moodle part, is there an enrollment scheme needed? Is it shared anyway?
Yes, I think I shared it with Cisse, and Cisse has sent it to the group. Cisse, didn't you send it? Yeah, and also even myself, I sent it.
Yes, I think, madam.
There is the link and then the enrollment key. Sorry?
Sister shared the link.
I was telling Sister to add me in the group.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to, I'm going to immediately after this lecture, I'm going to send this recording to ICT, and hopefully they'll send it back, and then I link this recording in Moodle. Okay. Is that
Okay.
okay? Okay.